visual storytelling is one thing, but when you add the right music, so good. So today I'm talking to the man behind some iconic musical scores out on television today. Today on the Fly Filmmaking.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
Thank you everyone for joining us again for On the Fly Filmmaking. I'm Marielou Mandl, and here we talk to production folks about what they do in the entertainment industry. Today I've got Emmy Award winning Quayle, composer, musical extraordinaire, here with me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing amazing. So tell me where everyone can find you on social media.
So what's that? Social media?
Yeah, I know you do it. I found you everywhere on the internet. You can't hide from me.
Social media, that's a thing. You get together with people like at a bar or something?
Yes.
Is that what that
and then
is?
we look at pictures.
Oh, right. Yeah, we're on our phones.
Yes.
Facebook, Quayle.
All right. Is that your favorite one?
It's my name.
Okay.
So yeah, Twitter.
All right.
Quayle.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of on Instagram, but haven't really gone there.
And then I saw you have a pretty solid YouTube channel because that's where you put your songs.
There's some YouTube stuff. Quayle again.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. Good. See, that's how I am. Everywhere across the internet, it's Marielou Mandl. I can't hide from people, and you can't hide from me. And that's why I found you.
It's our names, right?
Yes.
We got to just go with it.
It's very clear branding. Very clear branding. Awesome. So the song that we used to open is the opening score to Feud.
Yes, main title.
The main title, and you are currently nominated for that project, correct?
That's correct.
Yes. All right. Tell me how that feels. Because it's not your first time.
It feels familiar.
It feels familiar?
A little bit.
Okay. It's like, oh yeah, of course.
It feels exciting.
Good.
It feels exciting. It feels still a bit surreal.
Yes.
You know? And, you know, the competition is tough. There's some really good main titles this year, as in every year.
Mm-hmm.
So
what are some of the other ones that you're up against?
Stranger Things, excellent main title. Genius by the legendary Hans Zimmer and Lauren Balfe. Of course, Westworld, Ramin Djawadi, excellent main title. I think The Good Wife is another one, and there's one more, Victoria, is that the...
Yeah, what really like amazing company to be in.
Yeah, no, I mean just to be on that list is like what?
Yeah, that's gangster.
How did this happen?
And you've won before for Mr. Robot, which is one of my favorite shows ever. So talk to me a little bit about your win for Mr. Robot.
Wow, it was another exciting moment.
Yeah?
Yeah, very exciting. I'm a fan of the show.
Yeah, we've got a picture of you, I think, accepting your Emmy.
I accepted it. They handed it to me. I accepted it.
That's great. You're like, nope, no thanks.
and I mumbled something into the microphone in front of the audience.
Yeah.
It was a whirlwind. It was
Had you been to the Emmys a lot at this point?
This was the second time.
Second time you had been nominated before.
The previous year for American Horror Story.
Right on.
So.
And then this one you won. Were you surprised? How's it feeling? What's all of that like?
You know, for American Horror Story, like I didn't have a feeling that I would win. Like I thought maybe, but I didn't really just, and I didn't. And there's that moment, and you're in the audience, and they're about to announce the winner, and you're like, and part of me was hoping I would win, and part was hoping I wouldn't, so I wouldn't have to go up there and be in front of everyone. But with Mr. Robot, there was kind of a feeling. The show had gotten a lot of attention.
Yes.
The music had gotten a lot of attention.
Because it's so unique, and it like tells so much of the story. And it like, I always left Mr. Robot with the feeling of, you know, the world is coming to an end, or they're all watching me.
Paranoia.
Yes.
Yeah. You're inside Elliot's mind, which is a scary place to be. So I was optimistic for that, and sure enough, they did. They called
your name.
They called my name.
That's so great.
Yeah.
That's really wonderful. So I want to talk about those three projects: Feud, Mr. Robot, and American Horror Story, and like what the feeling was. So like we got a little bit into it with Mr. Robot, like paranoia. It's inside of Elliot's head. Like what other things were you trying to convey with this music?
I mean that is a large part of it, and as in a way, it was in hindsight that became really clear to me. That most of what I'm scoring is just what's going on in his head. A lot of the show is what's going on in his head. There's a lot of stuff happening there.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, but watch the show.
yeah, watch the show. So, there's some things that are not happening in his head. The music's helping to tell that. That's often got some paranoia with it too.
Yeah.
It's tense. There's very few light moments, if any.
Yeah. Well, there was like the one episode where they were in a sitcom.
Yes.
Did you do that one also?
The popcorn has arrived.
It's here. Popcorn. We're talking popcorn here at Popcorn Talk Network. Now you have it. Oh, thank you.
Okay, excellent. All right, so that's great.
It's good, right?
Yes, that's excellent. The sitcom episode, they were going for something. They were going for this realism of these certain suite of shows that were in the 90s.
Like early 90s,
in the early 90s.
Multicam kind of shows.
And
Family, Friday night, it's TGIF.
Full House. And so Sam Esmail, the creator of the show, said, we were talking about what we were going to do with the music, how to make it authentic. And he's like, I wonder who did the music for these shows. Turns out it was all done by the same guy.
What? And then got him.
And he was available.
That's amazing.
And so he came and he did the music for that segment.
Yeah, that's really smart filmmaking because like you're telling that kind of story, so go to those people that are good at that.
So I mean, I could have done my sort of imitation of it, but get the real thing.
Yeah.
So he did that segment, and on the surface when you watch that, it kind of looks like a light moment, but then when you realize what it really is that's happening, it's not a light moment. So I don't want to give a spoiler to tell what it is, but it's not a light moment. What's really happening during that is a pretty terrible, pretty dark thing.
Yes. Okay, awesome. Then with American Horror Story, the first one you were nominated for, what did you do the opening sequence for that? That's on all of American Horror Story, or was it a specific season?
Well, the opening sequence, the music, was written by two other composers.
Okay.
And that was, I think, pretty much the same in the first 3 seasons before I got involved with the show.
Okay.
In season 4, Freak Show.
Okay.
When I started, one of the composers who had written the theme did what we call a refresh.
Okay.
So they took the theme and they just kind of changed it a little to make it more relevant to what the storyline for season 4 was. It was a freak show, it was a circus, creepy clown music. So they sort of put that flavor into it. The same theme was underneath that had been there all along, but now it had these other flavors. So the producers really liked doing that. And when it came to season 5, Hotel, they asked me to do it. And so I took this sound that I had been using in the season, this sort of main theme sound, and I wrote a melody that I put on top of the opening credits.
Yeah.
And they loved that.
That's great.
And so we've done it each year now since then, and that melody I wrote for Hotel has turned out to be sort of now the melody of the opening credits.
Yeah.
And we've done it with a different instrument. Hotel, it was this sort of weird synth violin something, or
because that one had like kind of like a sexy 80s horror movie vibe.
It did very electronic. Roanoke, we did it with a cello, and now for Cult, it's been done with a trumpet.
Nice.
And so it's been kind of interesting to see it evolve every year and take on a new sort of persona, but yet underneath it's still the same great opening title music that they wrote back in season 1.
Right, which is the whole like kind of structure of that show. It's like we've got this similar kind of feeling, and there's some like through lines that we like get hinted at or whatever, but each season is uniquely its own.
Exactly.
It is essentially a whole new instrument.
Yes.
And a whole new like version of the same thing. It's great. I love it. Okay, so then let's talk about your current project that is nominated for an Emmy, and that's Feud. So that one I really like. That's the one we played at the beginning of the episode, and it feels like an old Hitchcock movie.
That was the intention.
Oh, good.
or one of the influences, let's say, Hitchcock.
Yeah. What other influences were in there?
Well, I mean, in general, it was intended for it to sound like old Hollywood.
Yes.
Like films that were coming out in the early 60s. And so obviously there was Hitchcock films. There were other films. There were, a lot of great composers were writing music in that time period. You know, Bernard Herrmann, one of the greatest of all time, Henry Mancini, Frank Duvall scored the film Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, which is the subject of the series. And so there was a lot of interesting ideas in his score. And I just had talked to Ryan and his team, and they said, this is what we want. We want it to be an orchestral score that sounds like the early 60s. And it needs to do a few different things. It needs to show the tension between these two women. And it needs to show the glamour and sort of fun of that period. And it also, most importantly, needs to show how sad their lives were and how sad it was to be treated the way they were treated by Hollywood.
It is, like, it's so haunting. Like, it pulls at you. And when I first started the show and I heard the music, I was like, oh, I'm in for it. Like, I need to buckle down and, like, ready to feel and receive what's going to happen. It's not a show you passively watch.
It's true.
Yeah, you set up the scene. It's great.
No, it's true. There's a lot of emotions there, and I think you know, another filmmaker might have taken the story and had it been really about the feud. You know, it's like a cat fight between these two women
so
on the
much
set,
more.
and Ryan, I think it's one of his amazing talents is he takes a story that on the surface looks like it's one thing, and he just pulls something else out of it completely, and that takes it into a whole deeper level.
It's brilliant.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. And so I have a little anecdote that you and I are we've both worked with Ryan Murphy, and the fact that, so you've, like, done the score for, like, so many of his amazing shows. I was an extra on the pilot of Glee.
Whoa.
I was in a crowd in the auditorium, like, cheering on their, like, final thing. So we basically are brother and sister.
All right.
Yeah, we're related.
I'll mention to him that we were hanging out here.
Yeah. You'd be like, you remember Marielou? No idea. I'm like, yeah, you wouldn't.
She was the one, she had that certain kind of wave with her hand.
She had, like, a thing. You know, it was, like, so great because it was early in my years here in LA, and, you know, just out there, like, just trying to get experience. So we're in an auditorium for this pilot for a show about kids who sing in the Glee Club. And I was like, all right, sure. And, you know, like, there's cheerleaders running around, and then we watch them perform, and I was like, oh, no, there's, like, something really interesting there. And so Ryan Murphy had come out on the stage. We're in the auditorium, and he's like, okay, everybody whose birthday is between January and July, you're standing, and, like, the other half are sitting down. And so, like, yeah, my birthday's in March, so I was standing, and, like, that's how the crowd was, like, mixed reactions. It was great. It's brilliant.
And that was a pilot?
Yeah.
And that show went on to do a little bit.
A
few things.
I don't know.
Right?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. I definitely cried at the end. It was my kind of show. I was target audience for that. Awesome. So I want to talk to you a little bit more about being a composer and what is your background. Like, how did you get to this point where you're winning and getting nominated, like, consistently for Emmys? Just like another one. It's great.
Yeah. You know, it's not totally clear to me. I mean, I see the path. I know what I've done, but I'm not sure how it all adds up to me sitting here with you having popcorn talking about Emmy nominations.
Yeah.
But at age 6, my parents took me, without mentioning it at all, they took me and put me in the church choir.
Oh.
And that was the beginning of my musical journey.
So you kind of lived Glee.
I kind of lived Glee. Yeah. I started singing and learning about music. And then there was, like, piano lessons and high school band and orchestra and then rock bands.
Yeah.
And then moving to New York City and going to NYU, dropping out of NYU.
Who needs it?
And getting an internship at a recording studio and then launching this career in the music business.
Okay.
Where I was a keyboard player, a programmer using a lot of electronics, and found myself making dance music.
Oh.
which of course is a very natural path for a choir boy from Virginia.
Obviously.
To end up becoming a dance music producer in New York.
Why not?
This is like it's pretty cliche at this point. And so that...
Is that a common story? The
no,
way you pitched it, I was like, wait, maybe it is. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, all the dance producers I met, they're like, yeah, we were choir boys.
Yeah.
So I was in, that's kind of like my first career in a way, was this music business career in New York.
Yeah.
And I did that for a number of years, and it was great. I loved it. Made a lot of dance music, did a lot of remixing.
Yeah, okay.
And
I did see you remixed a lot of songs that were part of my pop music fandom. There's like some Britney Spears and there's some Christina and
yeah. A lot of the big divas, you know, Whitney Houston, Janet Jackson, Madonna.
So great. So you've actually been in the room with them?
You know, I haven't been in the room with most of them.
Okay.
A few.
Yeah, because you'll get the music and then do your remix on it, but they're not there.
A lot of it was remixing, and so we were using existing vocals.
Okay.
The closest I came to being in the room with one of the like big ones was we did a remix for Whitney Houston.
Okay.
And occasionally the record label, they wanted the remix so bad, and even if it didn't work, because it wouldn't always work, you couldn't always just take the existing vocal and do a remix. If it didn't work, they would like, let's get them to re-sing it.
Yeah.
And they convinced Whitney to re-sing the song.
Which song was it?
It was called I Learned from the Best.
Okay.
And she was on tour in Europe, and we were in New York. And so she went into a studio in Germany, and we went into a studio in New York and did a digital link and recorded her singing.
That's amazing.
So we were sort of digitally in the same room,
yeah,
but not physically.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's so fun to like collaborate in like today's day and age. So like exactly that, like digitally, like I've got, you know, in the engineering booth back there, producer Marissa sends me a link to the live stream that somebody had asked a question about, and we're like all in separate rooms. So, you know, let's ask this question from the live stream right now on YouTube. Anthony Rodriguez wanted to know, he said, Mr. Robot is amazing. Mac is a G.
A G.
Did you know you were a G?
A G.
And he wants me to ask you about 1 or 0 from Mr. Robot.
1 or 0.
Yeah.
What does he want to know about that?
I don't know what he wants to know, but like, I don't know. He said ask about it. So like, where did that come from? Like, does that ring a bell? Like, you know which song that is?
There was a piece.
Let's see if we can pull that up on YouTube in the booth if we've got that. 1 or 0. It should be on your YouTube page, I think.
I'm not sure I posted that one.
Oh, maybe not. Okay.
But I mean, it was named after part of the dialogue that's between Mr. Robot and Elliot, and Mr. Robot is trying to convince Elliot to join him in their mission, which I won't say to avoid the spoilers, but and you know, he says, you got to decide, are you a 1 or a 0? And that's, you know, like that's where the title came from, and it's a kind of a slow build, this piece that just underscores the tension and the gravity of the situation, because we can tell it's a pivotal moment in the story, whether Elliot is gonna join Mr. Robot in his mission.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. And if you haven't seen that show yet, all of the titles are like in code, not like computer code, or like it looks like a file name. And then also I saw that the songs were named that way as well, which I just thought was so clever.
We followed that same format.
Yeah, I really like that a lot. And so like a 1 or 0, it's like a computer talk.
The record label wasn't thrilled when we were like, this is how we're going to name the songs. And they're like, oh, this is going to be a problem.
Yeah.
iTunes is going to kick this back to us, and Spotify, no one's going to like this. And it didn't end up breaking the internet, apparently.
Yeah.
So it worked
everybody's
out.
Fine. They're into it.
It turned out okay.
Yeah, and then while we're still on Mr. Robot, I'm just going to have to ask real quick, because my sister loves Rami. She says that that's my future brother-in-law. So do you know him?
I've met him a number of times.
Yeah? All right. Cool. So it's gonna happen, Deza, because we have a connection now.
Future brother-in-law. That's optimistic.
Yeah. She sees his billboard on Sunset Boulevard. And she's like, oh, it's my baby.
No,
she loves him.
He's good people.
Yeah.
He's very sweet, and you know, the whole cast and the people behind the show, they've just been incredibly supportive of the music. Like just really supportive.
Like really into it.
there was an event that we did, this Emmy promotional event back in the spring, and there was all of the cast were there talking, and Rami said something like, when I've just done a scene and I feel like it didn't go as well as I'd hoped, I just say to Sam, just throw some Matt Quayle on it and that'll fix it. And I'm like, I am not worthy, Rami. This is like, that's just,
throw some Matt Quayle on it.
Okay, so
that's great.
Very nice.
I was doing prepping for this interview, and I was like researching more of your things, and I saw that you worked on the soundtrack for Drive, which is one of my like throw that on to get like in the mind, like a certain mindset. Like the Drive music is
like to crush somebody's head in the elevator, kind of a feeling.
Listen. Sometimes you have to.
This
is how you get ahead in Hollywood.
That was with Cliff Martinez, an amazing composer.
Yeah.
Who I did a number of films with as additional composer, and that was a special project to work on.
Right on. So how did you get from dance music in New York to movies? Because did you do movies and then TV?
Well, so the dance music thing was going great. And then we get to the early 2000s. You may recall the music industry kind of went into upheaval. Sales were going down for the first time in history. And with them, the budgets for these projects I was doing, they just like somebody flipped a switch. It was all just disappearing. So I thought now it's maybe time to look into something else.
Yeah.
And I moved to Los Angeles with just a sort of a vague idea of getting into scoring.
Yeah.
Wasn't really sure. And in 2004, came here and then got my first job really working under another composer named Michael Levine on a TV show called Cold Case.
Okay.
And Michael heard something in my music and thought it would be a good asset on his team for that. And I went in, knowing a little bit about what I was going to do, but not that much. And 4 years later, 87 episodes or something that I helped him with, I really learned a lot about the whole process.
That's great. And then now you're in LA, 2004. So what is the first like big jobs that you're getting on your own, not as part of a team?
I mean, really the first big job was American Horror Story, and that was 10 years later.
10 years later, because it takes so much work to make moves in LA. Like you just have to keep pushing at it, and then you keep putting out good work, it'll hit.
Yeah, it was the overnight success in 10
overnight,
years.
A decade of overnight success. Yes.
Yeah.
So I want to show a video that you use as it's a submission for the Emmys to kind of explain who you are, but I just thought this was a really cute like explanation of what you do. Let's take a look.
Well, I write music for TV and films. Most of my days start out pretty much the same. Some days go like this. And some days go like this. Some days even go like this. And some days I pull out my secret weapon. But at the end of the day, I'm really just trying to find the perfect combination of 12 notes to help tell a story.
That is so wonderful. I loved that. And then so that one was for American Horror Story. That year you were nominated for that. And then there was a different one that was for Mr. Robot. And then I didn't find the one for Feud. Is that not out, or do we see that like after the Emmys?
That one, I haven't made it yet.
Oh, okay.
So I'm still sort of thinking about it.
It's got to be old Hollywood.
All of them have happened in the last like week before they're due,
Okay.
and then also some calls to the people that I'm sending them to, saying, "Can I have a few more days to send this in?"
On the fly. So that's a little short film that you produced yourself. Did you shoot it yourself?
My wife is a cinematographer.
Yeah. All right.
And she shot it on my iPhone.
Okay.
And she edited it.
That's amazing. Did she edit it on an iPhone app?
No,
she
actually,
brought it into
the computer. And because we wanted that look. I mean, she has like fancy, nice cameras and everything, but we wanted that look, and we actually have. You can get those little lenses that you like stick on the iPhone.
Yes, listen. People who follow me on like Instagram know I'm like obsessed with my like phone lenses and my 360 cameras and my drones, like all of that. Like, yes, I love it. Which lens is it? Do you know?
I can't remember. but it gave it that sort of
that wide angle
thing.
Look. It's good.
And then of course to me the shining moment in there is the guest.
Your guest. Tell me about your guest.
My daughter Vivian.
Oh my gosh, how old is she now?
She's a little over 3.
Yeah. So
she's like so much different than she was then.
Oh my gosh, I have so many ideas for your Feud one. You have to dress her up like the girls in the movie, like Joan or Bette, like, or both. I don't know. Have them talk to each other. It's amazing.
That's actually.
I'm coming over. We're making this. We're making this now.
We have a son named Oliver.
Yeah, he's in it.
So maybe that's the feud. Mm-hmm. It's between them.
Yeah.
But Feud, Vivian and Oliver.
It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be so great. Awesome. So speaking of, go ahead.
No, but we still have to figure. We're writing this now, so we gotta come up with these ideas. It still has to somehow show what I do a little.
Yeah.
So it can't just be 2 little kids fighting. Somehow it has to be.
I got so many ideas for you. I'll talk to you afterwards.
Okay. All right.
I don't want to give it away. It's gonna be great.
Okay.
But that kind of stuff that I like to do. I like short form, little like YouTube videos and things like that. I think that it's really fun and punchy, and it's great that as a composer, you're getting to make those things because of your work, like on the side. So I want to talk a little bit about production timelines that you have with the large productions that you do. So like, do you get the episode first and then you compose? They give you a vibe, they give you a script. Where is it that you fall into the line of production?
I do get access to scripts before they even shoot, if I so choose. Sometimes I like to just watch it without knowing. That can be nice.
Yeah. Is this your studio here?
That is my studio.
Nice. You got a lot of monitors. It looks like my desk, but I don't have a piano.
Need the monitors. You got the television. And so, for each of these shows, the process is fairly similar. We're starting, like at the beginning of the season, there is more time. You start off with more time, and I'll get maybe a partially completed first episode, and we're talking about ideas. What's it going to sound like? What we're going to do, and I start writing, and there'll be this initial period of a month or 6 weeks or something where we're just defining the sound. Especially like with Horror Story and each Ryan show, it's like starting from scratch every time. There's no going back to the previous season because it's a new story.
New thing.
So there's this initial period where we're coming up with what we need to, defining the musical universe, and it can last for 6 weeks or maybe a couple of months. But then the next episode comes, and then the next episode, and then that time is shorter as you get down to it. And so that 2 months. That really only happens just in the beginning, and then it just maybe it's 2 weeks, and then maybe it's a week, and then it moves very quickly as you get deeper into the season. So Mr. Robot especially, last season with Mr. Robot, I would get the episode on Monday, and the mix was starting on Friday, and it was airing the next Tuesday.
So stressful.
It was very fast. But we did it. We got it done.
Yeah, and I like hearing about that and how quick the turnaround is for projects that are professional level on TV, because I know I get stressed out when I'm like, tomorrow I'm supposed to post a YouTube video, and that's like 3 minutes of me talking to a camera. It's like totally different level, but like you're like, here's a script. It's something that's going to be on air for like the world to see in a week. It's great.
Yeah, I'm glad that I am just this small part of it, and I get certainly there's pressure on me, but the people above me that are like really trying to get this thing delivered. I can't. That's pretty intense.
The pressure's on. So then I want to ask you then about the level of stuff that I'm doing. Right, I find music is the hardest thing for me. Because I'm a visual person, so I'm like, I don't know, like this song, I'll just throw it on and like hope for the best. And I find like some royalty-free stuff that's on the internet. But if it's somebody who's wanting, like they're a small on-the-fly filmmaker and they are really wanting to improve their music, like what do you suggest for them on finding musical composers that are at their level, or where, like, resources where they might find some music accessible to them?
I mean, as you mentioned, there some royalty-free things out there. It's not gonna be like the biggest selection and the highest quality, obviously. So there's also a lot of composers that want to work, that want to do things. Many will work for nothing to get experience and credits. And there is certainly some benefit to them for doing that. But it's also nice, I think, even if there's not a big budget, to pay them something. Even if it's a little, just, you know, I don't really think anybody should be working for free, you know, should be compensated. But there's a lot of composers out there, and they want to work, and they want to learn, and they want to be part of your project and get a
they want
credit.
to have a stab at it, just the same as everyone else in production. And that's kind of something that I've discovered as I work with different people, that, like, people want to work on good things. So if with your project, right, you create something that is worth people wanting to be part of, you'll find people who want to be part of it.
I think so.
Yeah, that's good. So did you ever do any short films?
Yes.
Yeah?
A number of short films for very little or no money. And a handful of, like, indie features as well. Probably none that you would have heard of. Although one of the last ones has kind of made a name for itself now. It was a documentary called Autism and Love.
Okay, I think I've heard of that one.
And it got picked up by PBS and was part of their Independent Lens series, and now is nominated for an Emmy in the I didn't even know there was the News and Documentary Emmy. It's like a whole separate Emmys, but they're nominated now for that. So that's the little documentary that could. It's pretty great.
You're everywhere.
Yeah, it's really.
Just throw
really,
some Matt
really
Quayle
sweet.
on it.
Well, I think that story had a lot of heart. And it was a very simple sort of low budget thing, but they did a nice job with it.
Right on. So I want to talk to you a little bit about some, like, production triumphs and production fails. Like, so do you have any stories about, well, let's start with the triumph, because those are fun. It's the fails, I think, are more fun to talk about. Anytime that you've done a score and then it came out the other side and you're like, yes, I nailed it. Does that ever happen?
I mean, yeah. I mean, there's moments. It's not necessarily like a complete, like, every single thing that I feel is nailed. But then there's moments that are nailed.
Yeah. There's Emmys that are won.
That's a nice moment.
Yes.
You know, when I was first asked to write some music for American Horror Story, I got this call sort of out of the blue from one of the producers saying, we're looking to go in a different direction with the show. Would you write a piece of music for us this afternoon? And
on the fly?
On the fly.
Oh my gosh, okay, so tell me about that. How was, what were your steps to get that submission completed?
I mean, they sent me a scene, and they talked to me about what they were looking for, and they said that they'd been searching for this sound for the season, this particular sound. They hadn't been able to find it yet, and would I be interested in taking a crack at it?
Do you remember what happened in the scene?
I do. I do. Yeah, it was a great scene.
Okay.
It was really great.
Are you allowed to not? You're not allowed to say what it was?
Well, no. I mean, it's, you know, season 4 is kind of old news now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know, Jessica Lange's character goes into the hospital and sees Sarah Paulson's characters for the first time, the two-headed woman, Dot and Bette. And it's just a really wonderful scene, very creepy.
Yeah.
And it was fun to write the music for it to make it even creepier.
Yeah.
And so I felt really good about what I had done, and I sent it to the producer. She really liked it, and she had a couple of suggestions.
Okay.
And I did those, and then she's like, "We're gonna play this for Ryan in the morning."
It's just like an audition.
And then I get a call. It hasn't, not even 24 hours have gone by.
Yeah.
And I pick up the phone, and it's like, can I speak to the new composer of American Horror Story?
Ooh.
So I was like,
did you fall on the floor?
Triumph.
Because I want to fall on the floor right now. That's so exciting. Like, I can't imagine what that moment must have been like, because that's just, can I speak to the new composer? You're like, wait, what? Excuse me? That's awesome. Okay.
I mean, I didn't believe it.
You're like,
It took weeks for me to really.
Right.
You know, I would watch the show and wait for my name to come up at the end just to believe that it's still there. My name's still there. Okay, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess I actually have this job.
Yeah, you got that job. It's for real. The check's cleared, paying bills. Let's talk about some production fails. Is there any time that you've done something and it just was so wrong, and you can't do anything about it at that point, but you have to live with this scar on your career? Even if nobody else knows about it, I just want the dirt.
Scar on my career. I mean, you know, not really. I mean, certainly not in any of these projects that I'm working on now. I mean, because there's so many people that are, it's a big collaboration.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and there's the producers, there's Ryan, there's, you know, and everyone's shepherding this thing across the finish line. And so it's kind of difficult, certainly for a musical fail to
Right.
like get across the finish line. If it's a fail, it gets discarded and it's fixed.
Right.
But I did have, I didn't mention this before when I was telling you my story.
Okay.
I said like my first job I did in LA was working on Cold Case.
Okay.
I actually did something before that. I did this indie film, and I just did a terrible job.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was terrible, and I had a bad attitude, and because I was like, I just come from the music business, and
You felt a little above it.
and I just felt, you know, they didn't want to pay a lot of money, and I was just like, what, you know, and it was just, yeah, and I did a pretty bad job, and
Yeah.
and it took me a little while to realize that, and then I finally realized, and I ran into the director months and months later, and I just apologized. Like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I was, you know, it was terrible.
Oh, well then good. Did you learn a lesson from it?
Did I learn a lesson? I guess it was about just sort of becoming humble and
Yeah.
realizing I had a lot to learn.
Right. Definitely. And that's something that working on all sorts of different levels of productions, I personally had to learn, you know, whatever it is you're doing, this is where you are with this project, just do the best that you can at this thing. It just is better for everyone. Because, you know, like, I've definitely gone into projects and, like, I'm like, I don't know, this isn't right for me, I don't know, whatever, just sour grapes. And it just makes it not a good experience when you can go into it with a positive attitude, get a little something out of it, and just at least say, like, all right, fine, we did that, cool. And then move on to the next thing. But obviously it worked out fine for you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you got to have those, right?
Yeah.
Along the way.
Gotcha. Do you have any advice for someone who is looking to get into being a composer for TV and film?
I get asked this,
Yeah.
you know,
Probably all the time.
all the time, and I just know my path,
Yeah.
and that was working for other composers,
Great.
finding other composers that heard something in my music that thought it would be I would be an asset to them, and then through working with them, I learned more about the craft and got a few credits and was able to turn that into, you know, doing my own projects. I mean, it's a well-worn path in the industry. A lot of people will come up that way, working for other composers. There's a few other ways that people do it.
Yeah.
You meet a young director.
You partner up.
You partner up.
Come up together.
And you do their first little film that they do, and then they blow up, and now you go with them.
Yeah.
You know, or a good way is also to become a rock star.
Okay.
And then once you're a rock star, they want to hire you to do
Yeah,
their
it
film.
seems much easier.
And then you win
Yeah.
an Oscar on your first film and that kind of stuff.
It's like
you know?
like Pharrell, right?
Trent
Oh, yeah.
Reznor,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think is
Great.
one way to do it.
Yeah, that's it. I feel like that's easier. So, okay, so for these people who are just, like, maybe they don't know anything about music at this point, like, do they need to have a basic knowledge of, like, musical instruments? Like, obviously, like, if you're going to get into that. But that's something they could start with, is right? Like, learn how to play piano a little bit.
I mean, I think you do need to know how to write music.
How many instruments do you play?
17.
Ooh, all right.
I'm not sure.
I was ready for, like, the rapid-fire list of these.
I mean, I'm mostly a keyboard player.
Okay.
I play some guitar and bass. I play some percussion instruments, like hand percussion. I play the hammered dulcimer.
Okay.
marimba, xylophone, those types of things. And that pretty much covers it as far as like instruments in the physical world.
Okay.
In the digital world, I mean,
There's so much.
There's
like everything.
8 trillion different instruments that
Yeah.
I can play.
Good. Oh, how about the harmonica?
The digital one.
The digital harmonica.
I mean, the physical one, I can make a noise. It sounds a little like a
Yeah.
cat being strangled, but.
Gotcha. Is there any advice that you have for creators, whether they are the musical composers or they're people who are looking to work with musical composers, that you have any advice for them?
I have maybe some advice for the people that are looking to work with composers.
Okay, great.
And I come across this occasionally where a creator, they know a lot about every aspect of the filmmaking process. They know about shooting, and they know about cameras, and they know about editing, and they know about color, and all these things.
Yeah.
But technically, they don't know about music.
Yeah.
And they don't know the language that musicians use.
Yes, I'm guilty of that.
And they can get intimidated to talk to composers because they feel like, oh, I don't know the language. And what I just want to say to them is, you don't have to know the language. We don't need you to speak to us in a musical language. Speak to us in a language of feeling, a language of what, how do you want the scene to feel? How do you want your film to feel? What is it, what color should it look like? I mean, you can use all these other things. It doesn't have to be about the technical musical language, and then we'll do our best to sort of interpret that and give you something that hopefully will help you tell your story.
That's wonderful. I think that's really great advice, because like I always get intimidated by that. Like I'm just so like music and sound design, all of that just really, really intimidates me. And also because I don't quite hear, I don't know, like I have a vision, but like in my vision there's not a lot of music that happens. So I've been trying to study more of it and like get it to click. But what you're saying is that like I can say like, well, this is the feeling that I wanted for this project. I don't know what it sounds like, but maybe you have an interpretation for me.
Yeah, you could say, you can try to describe the feeling that you're looking for. You can also use other music as examples. I like the way this music feels. I like that way that music feels, and part of our job as composers is to take what you tell us and then give you back something that you're asking for. Right. And if it's not right the first time, we go back and do it again based on more information that you give us about what you're looking for. Right
on. And then any final advice just for artists in general who are looking to work in a creative field? Do it, don't do it? Run away? No, don't run away.
No, I mean, I think it's not cliche, but you got to follow your dreams.
Yeah.
And it is a tough business, being creative and being an artist and working in Hollywood or in the music business. I mean, it's tough, and I'm not really sure how I've survived all this time. I think the odds are against anyone surviving and succeeding.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just gotta get out there and do it and see what happens.
Yeah. Good. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for chatting with me, Mac. There was so much fun. I learned a lot. I learned a little bit more about your language. So let everyone know real quick where they can find you on social media.
Facebook, Mac Quayle. Twitter, Mac Quayle. And sort of on Instagram, Mac Quayle. Oh wait, Friendster. And MySpace.
Old school. That's where all your dance music is.
That's
on MySpace.
That's where the real. If you want the real stuff, it's Friendster. It's all on Friendster.
It's on Friendster. Amazing. Awesome. Cool. And we will then find you soon on that Emmy stage again.
I'll definitely be in the audience.
You'll definitely be in the audience.
I can guarantee that.
I'm thinking big for you. I'm hoping real big. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Marielou Mandl. We will catch you next time on the Fly Filmmaking. You can find me all over the internet at Marielou Mandl. And I will chat with you guys next time.
Thanks.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network. The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.